Now I'm going to have to hold this in the rectum, but I can handle the clamp. I use my hemostats to kind of clamp and then let up a little, letting the water in. And see, it's hanging up. And so I can watch the level of the water and then clamp it. And it is one time, and I really do, one or two students have been with me with an enema. It's quite a thing to see. But it's the only time I use imagery. And I tell them to imagine. Now, nobody's ever hit me. Nobody's ever said that that's the craziest thing, and I think that's awful what you do. For a second, they get their mind off this. And what I do is I'll say, okay, we're going to rest a minute. What I want you to do, I go there and say, you got to get it out. I can't hold it. And I say, well, now listen, I'm not going to put it in right now. What I want you to do is imagine the beach. And you're on the beach, the sun's beaming down, the mist from the salt water is on your face, and your face is a little salty, chalky. For a second, they don't think about their GI flooding. So then they say, I can't think about that right now. And I say, okay, now we're going to do a little more. And so I open the clamp and put a little more. I can't hold it. You're going to have to take it out. And I go on record, I never take it out in the middle of an enema. What I do is I just keep them and stop it, start it, stop it, start it. Imagery. Another imagery I use is the Macy Day Parade. Now, watch the big blown up animals and you see Pluto and you see Mickey Mouse. You know for a second you do that. It's the only time I ever really use imagery. Because for a second they'll do that. I use a third one is a field, and you're so hot and thirsty, but you see a shade tree, and there's some glasses lined up that are sweating. They're so cold, and you're so thirsty. And I do that. So now we're doing pretty good. I've got that 1,000 pretty much in him. Now, are you holding it? No, I'm getting ready to let it out. No, hold it. Now, if they let it out, I, of course, don't scold them. Sometimes I do say, I'm going to kill you if you let it out. But they know I'm teasing. But anyway, you don't give them permission to let go. They'll let go if they can't hold it. But what you do is, even if they say, I'm going to tell you, I'm turning over, I'm not going to let you do it anymore, then what I do is just open wide up and let it flush in and flush right out into my bedpan. In other words, it's done some stimulating rather than just, okay, I'll pull it out and clamp it. Just rush it in, and he's going to let it go in the bedpan anyway, my enema. Okay, now the colostomy I wanted to talk about. And let me say, they're not doing as many, and when they do a colostomy, they're anastomosing pretty quick. I say in a month or so, or 3 months, usually at the most. And so, we still do have them and doing them, but just not quite as much. The stoma, of course, is there, and they may come back to you with a bag on the stoma, and your orders are to just remove it and replace it. And, you know, the bags now have a clamp that you just clamp. And the ostomy nurses are asking that we change them as little as possible. The wafer with the bag fitting, the wafer, you know, the male-female fit. Because they would rather us empty them here and put the clamp back on. Now, your patient, so your job is the wafer, and then the fitting kind of male-female Tupperware kind of fit, and that stays with the clamp on the end, and you just push it out like you would toothpaste and clean the bottom. and then put your clamp back on. We sometimes have to take them off if they're leaking, but the ostomy nurse says the less we pull off the bag, the longer the wafer will stay on, and we don't have to do this ritual as often. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So the bag, the clip. Now, in the past, we would irrigate somebody's colostomy. We're not doing it much now. And I'll have to say, I always wondered why we did it, because nobody's really constipated. I've never known anybody to be constipated in the colostomy. I've seen little pellets, and I've seen loose, but I've never seen where they're constipated. Well, sometimes they want it irrigated. And I'm going to tell you, the tray comes, and it's layered with, you could never have done one, and with just good common sense, you can figure out how to do it. And what you would do is, here's the tray. They came back from surgery with the bag on, but he wants it irrigated. So they're so weak, I may leave them in bed, or I may get them to the bathroom, and I do it all. But let's say that they're at the bathroom sink. One of the first things that is in my tray for irrigation is a bag that's opened at the top like Ziploc with a long, they call it sleeve. This is very long, and it goes between their legs. So it goes on, goes between their legs into the commode, and then this Ziploc top, I'm going to put the enema. That's what it amounts to. I put, it's really an enema, they call it an irrigation. And I put it into the stoma, and then I just irrigate. About 1,000, 1,500, slow. And it comes out and goes into the sleeve, into the commode. Before I even do it, sometimes you're welcome to do it, put your glove on, put KY on, and go into the stoma with your finger, and you kind of see which direction it goes, and you can start with your little finger and go up to the biggest finger, which is your thumb, and it kind of stretches it for when you put your tubing in to irrigate. And like any irrigation, when you're through, like any enema, when you're through, you need to take the tube out, Ziploc it, let them sit there maybe 45 minutes. You know, any enema, it just stimulates, and you may defecate later. One time, I irrigated a fella, and he was in the hospital not for his colostomy, something else, and I told him, I said, it's a good line, but it's true. I said, Mr. So-and-so, I know how to irrigate a colostomy, because I knew I could figure out. I mean, I've just told you. I said, but I'd like to do it like you do it at home, so I'd rather us do it your way. He said, okay. So he told me exactly what to do. He wanted me to fill the little bag to 1,500. He said, now sit me over there. Let's put it in. And he said, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this 1,500 in, and if you'll bring my can of tobacco over there, I'm going to spit in that for about 45 minutes. I'm going to sit here and spit my tobacco and just relax with this. So we got rid of it, and he sat for his 45 minutes because he knew that's how long it took him to stimulate, to put out. And of course it goes into the sleeve, into the commode. Now, I've got one, let me see. Oh yeah, the condom catheters. I just wanted to mention them because I do like them to a certain extent, because it is not invasive. It doesn't stick germs up into the penis. And so they come as a condom catheter. You see it has this end that can be put, attached to our urinary bag. And they simply go on the man's penis just like a condom does. And then you tape You might want to courtesy tape onto there. It might stay on its own, but you might courtesy. And the trouble is they can't be too frisky in bed because in this twist. And when it twists, then it blows up urine over here and pops off. Efficient, they're not the most efficient. But if you had a patient who wasn't moving around much, but he urinates on himself, and then it's not a bad thing, and they don't want the pins on them. So it's not a bad thing. Now, let me see. I want to just make sure I've covered everything I wanted to. Well, I'll never get to teach you everything I want, but I'm getting there. Remember, one way you can tell dehydrated skin is, does it tint? When you pick it up, does it stay like a tint? They're tinting, then they're dehydrated. Or does it twist like gum and stays in place like it were chewing gum? I don't think you need to chart that. It stays in place like chewing gum. Anyway, now, if you'll just sit here 1 second, I've got one thing to run get I forgot to bring. Okay, I'm back. And some of you have seen it in my office, and you know how I am about baths. And I think I've done everything I want to teach you right here for right now. I've always got stuff. But you're learning and I'm learning. Let's keep on learning and learning and learning. But I really believe, as I told you last week, when somebody's so restless at night and they feel so bad in their greasy sheets, that a good bath makes everybody feel better. And so a student last semester had his mother fix this up for me. Can you read it? It's better than a pill. It's better than a pill, because I would say a bath is better than a pill. Thinking about you, proud of you, do good.